Hey everybody, I'm Kevin Weiss from bodyperformance.net, and today I'm brought to you by my friends at Riptone Fitness Products, and we're going to bring you another video on some exercises that you can do at home, whether you have little or no equipment. So one thing I want to stress over the last few videos and stuff that we've done, the exercises, there's nothing magic about any of these exercises. What I want people to realize is we're training movements, and then depending on what equipment you have, which may be none, or you may have access to dumbbells, you may have access to bands, you may have access to barbells, all that it does is that gives you a different way to add resistance to the movement. So if you have a barbell, well then your hip hinge, which is what we're going to cover today, is going to be primarily barbell type movements where you can use more weight, like deadlifts as an example. But if you don't have a barbell, well then now you're going to be using something else to give resistance that may be less, but that doesn't change what you're actually working. So today we're working on the hip hinge. We've already covered the squat, and we've already covered the push-up, the vertical push, or horizontal push. So what we want to cover today is the hip hinge, where the hinge is going back. So the squat movement, the knees are flexing more. With the hip hinge, the hips are hinging backwards, and the shins are going to stay more vertical. So just doing this, that shows you that would be very similar or the same movement as the Romanian deadlift. And then if you were to do a full deadlift, well then you'd bend your knees. So that's the difference. But this is the actual hip hinge part of the deadlift, which is great. So now we need to figure out how we're going to make that harder, because if you just do this, well, that's not going to be enough resistance for you. So let's use the simple band to begin with. So this is a fairly thick band, but once again an inexpensive one that's very easy to find, very easy to get. So if we want to add resistance to this movement, just think of how the band works. We just need to be able to stretch against the resistance. So if we take the band and we stand on it just right in the middle of it like this, maybe a little bit wider, we're going to give ourselves a little bit of resistance there. We can grab lower on the band to increase the resistance. And that's actually a fair bit of resistance. So for most people this is going to be quite helpful, and they can mimic a Romanian deadlift doing that. Now we can also do the same thing with a sumo deadlift, where we take the band, we step wider on it, and I would grab right in the middle then. You can grab wider like this as well. That'll increase the resistance. And same thing, pushing the hips back, hinging the hips back, driving the hips forward. And that actually has a pretty good amount of resistance to it as well. A third way that we can use the band is, as long as you have something that's solid that isn't going to move, you can hook the band around there. Oh, that wasn't very good. Here we go. Hook the band around. Make sure it's secure. Now reaching between your legs, you can hinge backwards and push through. This is actually similar to like a kettlebell swing without your arms moving forward. Making sure to keep the movement in your hips. Notice I'm not squatting down and standing up. To increase resistance, you just move further away. I reach back, aggressively push through. So that's 3 real good variations right there, just using a very simple band. So maybe you don't have a band, maybe you don't have anything. We still need to work this motion of the hip hinge and the hip extension. Simplest way, also the easiest way, so people are going to progress from this a little too fast or fairly fast, is just extending the hips here. And then you can move to one-legged a little bit harder. And to make it even harder, we can take a bench and do one leg and two leg variations on here as well, with the legs elevated to make it a little bit harder. Another variation on this is, instead of having your legs elevated, you have your shoulders elevated. Dropping the hips down, pushing them up and squeezing. And these can also be done one-legged. So that's just a real quick, easy way with quite a few different exercises, and you could even do those in a circuit of some kind, where you do the, say, those are called pull-throughs, where you're pulling the band like this. So maybe you do a set of deadlifts, and then you do a set of pull-throughs, then you do a set of hip extensions on the bench, and finish with a set of hip extensions on the floor. And then rest and go through that 3 or 4 times. So it doesn't have to be complicated. Just think about things in movements and then figure out ways, simple ways, to add resistance. So I hope everyone's staying safe, doing everything that they're supposed to be doing. Get your exercise in though. It's not that hard. If you have anything that you're not sure how you can actually work it, go ahead and send me a question. I'll answer you for sure. So I hope these videos are helping you guys out. I'm Kevin Weiss from bodyperformance.net, brought to you by Riptone Fitness Products. I'll talk to you guys again real soon.